seeing it.
Yeah.
There we go.
Awesome. All right. Welcome everyone to episode 3 of the Spiritual View with my lovely co-host Sheila Shorten and Kim Wilkinson, as well as myself, Tracy Montgomery. And we have a very fascinating show for you today, all about light language, which seems to be some questions and some conversations that are coming up in all of our fields. So we thought that we would bring that forward to you today. And while we're just maybe waiting for some peeps to hop online and watch our YouTube live, maybe let's just share what's shaking bacon. Kim, what's new in your world these days?
Well, actually, just this past weekend, Sheila joined me for part of the weekend, and we led the first 7 Steps to Freedom retreat, which stemmed from the teachings from the 7 Sisters. And it was such a powerful weekend. And I have to say, even though I'm a facilitator, I'm always a student, and I was just as much a student as everybody else was yesterday. It was, or the whole weekend. It was really powerful, and it was done online. And I know sometimes people think, oh, you don't get the same out of an online experience like that, but I think Sheila will agree with me. It was so powerful, and now I can't wait to do the next one in person. So that was our weekend. Lots of exciting things. We actually did close it with a little bit of light language yesterday. So that was interesting too.
Very cool. So what's your biggest takeaway from the weekend?
Oh my gosh. There's so much. Sheila actually said to me, so when are you writing the book? And that seed has been, slowly growing in the back of my mind. So, but yeah, just so much. It's really about, using these 7 steps without going too much into it, these 7 steps to find freedom, and just 7 approaches or practices or awarenesses to bring into every moment of every day to transform and to be in the best place that we can. And it was interesting because it was very interactive, and we had a lot of sharing of perceptions of things. And as we know, there's no one truth to thing, and there are so many different perceptions. And by going through this, and everybody sharing their perception on different things, it expanded the awareness and the consciousness for all of us, which is huge. And as you know, both of you as teachers, we always say the real learning comes when you take what you've learned and apply it. So it's going to be interesting going forward to stay in contact with everyone who is in the training, the retreat for the weekend, and just see where it takes us.
Amazing. Beautiful. Oh, I can't wait to hear more about it then. That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you. And so Sheila, what's going on in your world then?
Yeah, so I was part of the retreat this weekend. I kind of took a small part at the beginning and then a small part at the end. So it was kind of fascinating to see the ladies at the beginning and then see them at the end. And it was like crazy shifts and transformation to really come in and not be part of it, and then see it at the end and go, wow, things happened here. Big things happened. So that was really cool. The other thing happened is that Kim does a rebirthing ceremony at the end that I got to take part of. And oh my gosh, it's so powerful, Kim. I can't even tell you. So my growth this weekend was high. And part of that was being part of Kim's experience for sure. I think that there's a new level of trust for me that I've kind of leveled up to. And that seems to be really shifting everything in my life in a fast and furious way.
Amazing. Oh, I love that. Look at you two go. That's awesome. So
yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. What's new with me? Well, I did just move out of my brick and mortar and close that down yesterday. So that's pretty big and that's new. And interestingly enough, like I'm not a person that has issues with sleeping usually, but last night, I don't know about you two, but I was like, ting, like just wired all night. And I don't know, it could have been because I did go with a couple girlfriends and I saw the new Magic Mike movie last night. That's enough to get a little, get you a little excited. So maybe that's why, I don't know. But interestingly enough, I only think I only got like 4 hours of sleep last night. It wasn't even that the mind was going. It was just like there was such a high vibration last night. I don't know. Did either of you notice that at all?
I slept so good after that weekend. I slept right through the night.
Yeah, I guess you'd probably be so tired, right?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. Sheila?
Yeah, no, I did something different last night. I said, please help me sleep really good tonight. I want to sleep all the way through. And it actually worked. So I think my level of trust is different. So But I know what you're talking about, the sleep stuff, because there's a lot of ascension symptoms that are happening with the sleep. So it sounds like you had a bit of an ascension symptom. Even the transition from, your office to bringing your business home, there's an energetic shift there for sure. So maybe some things in the body that had to change and shift for that new perspective, right?
Yeah, totally. It'll be interesting to see what continues to happen. But yeah, thank you. So on to today's topic on the spiritual view, the place where all views are welcome. And we're talking about light language today. So for some of you that are watching, let us know if you're watching live in the comments. And if you catch this on the replay, you can also comment that way as well. But if you even have heard of light language, or maybe you've heard light language, or maybe you have no idea what it is at all. And so what we thought we would do is we would start by actually sharing a bit of light language with you so that you can all experience it and have the opportunity to receive it. And then after that, we're going to talk a little bit about, I'm going to go first. So Sheila and Kim are going to share their experience of the light language that I bring through. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about a lot of the common questions people have about what it is and all the things. So we're going to start with that, I think. Yeah. Sheila or Kim, do you have anything you want to say before we get going? No? Awesome. Okay. Well, when I do it, I always like to just start by grounding everybody in a little bit, just to really get into the body. So I'll invite you all to just soften and close the eyes for a moment and just start to deepen the breath. Take deep inhales, deep exhales through the nose only. And as you inhale, begin to allow your spine to feel as though it's lengthening. Notice that the vertebrae may even start to subtly shift and move, just to bring you more into your natural organic alignment to the spine. And as you breathe in and feel that lengthening, feel the crown of the head just start to reach up towards the sky, towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, then allow the breath to release and feel that energy drop back down right into the base of the spine and into the sacrum. And just give yourself the next few breaths to really connect into the physical body, breathing a little bit deeper here as you inhale and exhale, just watching the breath, and notice that as you inhale, the chest will fill first, and then the belly. And then as you exhale, the belly will empty first, and then the chest. And watching this movement of the breath as though you're watching waves of an ocean that gently rise, gently fall, gently ebb, gently flow. And just giving yourself full permission here to completely relax, to relax into your body, to softly land in the body. And give yourself permission to just open and be ready to receive. Receiving with a presence and awareness that you are able to witness any shifts or changes or effects that may come through in the physical body, in your energy, in the space of the heart. Yania ti shikilakaya tolakayania tiania. Hokia titiania tokia shi tikiania totikiania tokanayania. Kitolakayania tikia tishikia mania tikia tokiania tikia. Kolakia tia kia shi kia lakia tokoyania tikikayana tikia shikiana yata tolakiania kia sho. Kilakiatia to kianiata kiana to. Breathe that in. Exhale, sigh. And just give yourself a moment here. Allowing it to land. And then just start to wiggle the fingers and the toes, just signaling to the body that it's time to reawaken, And when you feel ready on your next exhale, you can gently start to soften and to open the eyes, bringing yourself back into your space. Okay. All right. So before we get into the nitty gritty about light language, I would love to just hear both of your experiences of that. I know, Kim, you've heard me speak at once, but Sheila, I don't think you've ever heard. So Sheila, do you want to go first?
Yeah, that's, I have been exposed to light language for a while. Not a lot, obviously. It's not something that's widely spoken, but I have been exposed before. And I was thinking of this yesterday and I was thinking it again today. Kim did it yesterday. My first response when it comes forward is mother.
Mm.
So the first thing that appears for me is mother, Mother Earth, mother. I'm not sure what that means, but it's almost like a feminine voice, a feminine energy that comes through for me anyways in the experience.
Mhm.
I find light language that I could sit in it for hours. Like, I don't want you to stop when you're doing it. It feels like home. That's my experience. It feels like home.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. Kim, what was your experience?
Yeah, I can agree with Sheila. Definitely this sense of feeling held. And I do remember, Sheila, the first time that you heard me channel, you said it felt like my grandmother was there. So yeah, just the reference to mothers, right?
Mhm.
For me, this time, it was very interesting. And this was a new experience for me, as it usually is. But what I was feeling, I could feel a presence in front of me, and it felt like an activation. It felt like this presence or being was almost pointing to different parts of my body, whether it was the chakras or heart or different things. And it felt very much like an activation. That was really nice.
Beautiful. Awesome. Thank you. So let's dive in then to kind of the frequently asked questions, I guess, if you will, just from a very general standpoint, because if you have ever heard light language before, what you will notice, and Kim will share some later, and you'll see that they all sound different, right? Kim's not going to sound exactly like me, and I don't sound exactly like Kim. In my experience, I've heard some that's similar, but I've never heard them exactly the same. And I could be wrong about that. Maybe that's something that does exist. I'm not sure. But let's just start by just sharing, like, now that we've shared your experience of it, if you were to give, for lack of a better word, like a definition to what light language is, what would you say, Sheila?
Well, light, the energy of light, I don't understand the science or what that means, but it just means to me that light has a powerful presence, has a healing opportunity. I don't know how to describe it other than beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my idea of light language is that, we always say the light in me shines the light in you, meaning the beauty in me. So light language is beautiful.
Awesome. Thank you. And Kim, what would your definition be?
I tend to, and it's something that I'm fairly new to. I have done some training and some practicing and whatnot. For me, it's a language of vibration.
Mm.
And the one thing that really stuck out for me that I continue to remind myself of, and I don't know if I learned this in the training I did or if it came as a download, but the importance of listening to light language with the heart and not the physical ears, which is different for a lot of us because we're so conditioned to listen with our ears all the time.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. I love that. And I feel like for me, it's a definition of kind of an amalgamation or an alchemy, I guess, if you will, of both, of everything that each of you have said. Like, I believe it is a language of light. I also believe that it is a frequency, a vibration, right? That just comes from a space that's different than ours. Kind of like, for lack of a better analogy, how dogs can hear different frequencies than we can, right? They can hear things that we can't. And I kind of feel like it's a little bit the same there. What I've been taught and what I've learned is true for me is it comes through as it's the language of the soul, right? It's that soul remembrance from perhaps our soul source point, or another, I would say, past life or incarnation when that was our normal language, right? Rather than English. And so it definitely does hit from a feeling rather than a knowing, right? And I think that kind of leads into the next question that most people want to ask is they're like, oh my gosh, where does it come from? Where does it come from? And what does it mean? Right? So Kim, what are your thoughts on that?
I was that person too, that when I first started to hear it, I wanted to know. The question that I get asked now is, what is the dialect, or what is that species, or whatever it is. And as we were just talking before, I think my answer now would be, why does it matter? Why does it matter? We get so hung up sometimes on the needing to know why of everything. And I'll go back to what Sheila shared at the beginning. She has this new level of trust.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad that you said that. And that actually makes a lot more sense to me now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, we don't always have to know why. Sometimes we just have to trust and surrender and allow ourselves to be open and to connect.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love that. Yeah. And Sheila, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the question that I would ask people is, what is the reason why this offends you, or why does light language scare you, or whatever feelings you're having against light language? I'm not saying you have that, but if you did, my question would be why. And I think for a lot of us, when we experience something new, I think I can only speak from my perspective, but to be different than others means that you're not accepted. And we all just want to be accepted. It's one of our biggest human needs, is to be accepted. So for us to say that we listen to light language, or that we channel, or we do all these things that are not necessarily the norm, we have to go to a place of absolute trust that we are accepted. And the acceptance comes from a deeper level of consciousness, a deeper level than just having people think you're okay. It comes from a real deep awareness that you know you're okay. And I think if you were to really describe spirituality, light language would be one of the levels of leveling up.
Mm.
So I level up and I accept light language. I understand that I don't understand it, but yet I experience it, and I know that it has this benefit that I cannot describe.
Yeah.
And is it okay to subscribe to that? And if you're listening to this, you might be thinking, gosh, I wouldn't tell my mother that I listen to light language. I wouldn't tell anyone. Well, you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. You don't have to tell anyone. You just have to know what's best for you and subscribe to it in the best way that you can. I work out at this gym, and we have these like, go faster, go faster, go faster. And I find myself in this going fast. And then once you're done, you can do this. And if I'm the first one done, I look around and I'm like, is anyone else done? I must have did it wrong. Because how could I be first? And it happens to me over and over. And I'm watching myself in this experience of life, not trusting myself. And this light language is a powerful remembrance for me, that I have heard this language before. I've experienced it. It's healing, it's loving. But is there a fear around that for me or for others, that I will be different?
Mm-hmm.
To listen to that light language? I think that's a part of our awakening, our new earth, our way of saying, you know what? I might not know why, but I know that I'm going to go to a channeler. I'm going to go to Tracy or Sheila or Kim and experience what I experienced. I can't tell you what it is, but I know when I leave that house or when I leave that office, I feel different and something has changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So trusting who we are, trusting that we can be first at the gym, and we can get to that line and not look around and go, did I really get first? Like, because it's like giving up on ourselves over and over and over. And I know that I've done it, and I still continue to notice it in myself, giving up on myself, and to trust into something like light language. I think you're not giving up on yourself. You're allowing yourself something really incredibly beautiful. Mm-hmm. Everything that Kim and Tracy and I do, and I think most light workers do it from a place of love. there's no harm intended.
Yeah.
And with that intention, that for the light language has come forward because they were willing and ready to receive it and to offer it. Because I bet you the first time you offered it, you felt awkward.
Well, I'll tell you about that in a minute.
Yeah, so I'll give that to you, Tracy, because that's,
Yeah.
I think that's really what our human nature is, right?
Absolutely. And, I love everything that both of you are saying. And I think that one of the things, like, I remember, and I have met people who have said, like, they pull through a transmission and they'll say, okay, this was, from Isis, or so sometimes they'll attach it to a goddess or things like that, or they'll be able to say, this is an activation, or this is a clearing, or this is this, right? And so when we see some people sharing that, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but when we see some people sharing that, then it automatically triggers the question that we should just know with all of it, right? And I know, like, and I'll speak to my first experience a little bit and how it came through with me. And then, of course, you can share yours as well, and we'll see what the similarities and differences are. But when I first heard light language for the first time, I heard it. I didn't even know it existed until I actually heard it. Like, I'd never heard about it before. And when I heard it, before I was told, what God it was attached to, or what the message was, or if there was a translation or any of that, I heard it, and it was exactly as you said, Sheila. It was like, I felt it, and it felt like I was coming home. And there was such a familiarity to it, right? And right away when I heard it, I was like, oh my God, I know how to do that. Not from the ego, like it was like there, I did step in a bit with the I want to do that, but the I want to do that came after the I know how to do that. Right. And then it kind of sent me on a bit of this rabbit hole, you could say, or this journey, starting to look at different people and what it sounded like, and hearing what resonated with me and what didn't. And, fast forward a couple of years later, I found this beautiful woman who's a friend and mentor of mine. Her name is Casey. And I heard her doing a light language video on Facebook, and she was singing light language rather than just speaking it. And I heard it. And again, I had that coming home feeling, but it literally brought me to tears. Like, I was like ugly crying in a good way, like total joy and love as I was listening to this language. And I was like, I don't know who this woman is, but I have to know her. And so, I was that person, the random message person that was like, hey, I know you don't know me, but, and I started to do some sessions with her. And a few weeks in, she had said to me, she's like, well, you have a yoga background, right? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, so you know about like toning, which is like using different vibrational sounds, right? Like Om, or the sounds of the different chakras, right? The yum and the hum and things like that. She said, well, have you ever just thought of, just playing around and toning and seeing what would happen? And in my head, I was like, that's dumb. I was like, that's so stupid. That's not going to work, kind of thing. And over the couple of years, it was like I was almost trying to will it into existence. Like, I was trying to pull it forward, and there was so much intention and attention behind it. And a couple of weeks after she said that to me, I was in the shower, which is where a lot of my downloads seem to happen for whatever reason. And all of a sudden I heard her voice being like, oh, have you ever tried toning? And I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll just try it, because I'm home alone and that never happens. And so I tried it, and I started toning, and I was just kept going through the chakras and doing some ohms. And I got to this place where I wasn't really thinking anymore. I was just like, shaving my legs and toning in the shower, just another, regular day in my house kind of thing. And then it just fell out. And as it fell out, like in my brain was like, holy shit, and my nervous system was a little like, oh. But what was interesting is after it came through, then I went to what you were speaking about, Sheila, because then all of a sudden I was like, because I should have been like celebrating and being like, oh yeah, and instead I was like, oh my God. And it made me go like this a little bit. And all of a sudden I was like, am I crazy? Like, am I making this up? Have I wanted it for so long that now I'm just like making this shit up? And I had to work through a whole bunch of stuff myself in terms of trusting myself and trusting it. And I was even like, I called a few really trusted friends, and I was like, okay, this happened. Like, tell me what happens when you hear this. Cause I needed some validation. I needed to know that I just wasn't going, insane. And then it took a while. It was like, it finally happened. And then I was like, I can't share this. What do I do with this? What if people like, then the whole persecution thing came in, which was super interesting that I had to work with. So I don't know if and it doesn't even have to be light language, but if either of you want to speak to kind of that aspect of the experience, because I find that that's interesting too, that it's like, I wanted to activate something for so long. And when I finally did, I was like, oh, now what? Right. Kim, did you have that same experience with yours?
Yeah, definitely. And before I jump in, I just want to give a shout out to Lee Manzer, who gave us a shout out. She says in the comments, hello, ladies. I love the show. Amazing work you're doing. So thank you, Lee. We appreciate you being here and commenting.
Lee is the man.
Oh, I'm so sorry. See, we should never assume. Thank you, Lee. And hopefully we'll get to meet you.
Thank you.
And have some conversation around that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as I'm listening to, again, you know, we share and our perceptions expand for me. And I was even getting a new perception of what language is. And I'm starting to now feel it as the true language of love, because it's so connected to, like you said, the heart, the soul. And I can definitely resonate with the ego coming in, or the thoughts of I'm making this up. You know, people are going to think I'm crazy. I can't do this. How I came upon light language, I can't exactly even tell you the day or the event, but what I will tell you that I know for sure is that spirit led me to it. I have noticed, I believe now my whole life, I've been divinely guided to where I need to be, but especially this last year, it's crazy and beautiful and unbelievable where I get led to, whether it's to certain people or trainings or light language. And when I came across it, I started listening to it. I was fascinated right away. And I found there was some that I really liked and some that I really didn't like, or that just didn't resonate, right? And there's so many different, I don't know what the word is, translations of it, I guess. As you mentioned, I've heard some where it's singing, and some of them are beautiful. There's this one woman I found on TikTok from Germany, and it's almost like opera, and it's unbelievable. And she says, I'm not a trained singer. I have found one or two that I like to listen to regularly, like a 6 or 7 minute activation. And it just feels so, like you said, home. There's this knowing, even though I may not know what it is, what it means, there's the knowing in the heart. It resonates. And when I listen to it, it takes me deep. I also knew that because I was being drawn to it, I was also meant to tap into it a little bit more myself and to share. And much like you, there's a discomfort in that, or there's a lack of trust sometimes. I can't do this. This is for other people. And for me, and it was the same thing when I started channeling as well, just channeling spirit. And my path has been first to be in resistance, and then to go, okay, I know this is what I need to do, and to surrender to that. And then what I do is I just, much like you, what can I do to invoke this or become more trusting? So one of the things I did do is I found a training, and I did that. And then I did a lot of throat chakra activation. So again, chanting, humming. I did the bumblebee breath a lot with the ears plugged and humming. And I meditate a lot. And I find when I go into my meditation, I can easily connect and deeply. And so I went into that with intention to be able to bring through the light language. And it just started to come. And I started recording myself as well, because I knew at some point I need to start doing this on lives or in my groups, that sort of thing. And I had a few interesting experiences. And Tracy, we may have spoke about this before. We know that time doesn't exist, but we relate to time as humans. And there was one day that I sat down and I lit my candle and I lit a stick of incense, and I did a little bit of toning, set some intention, and I channeled some light language, and I recorded. And it felt like maybe 5 minutes. And when I was done, I stopped recording, and the recording was, I think it was like 12 or 14 minutes. And I thought, wow. And the other thing that was wild is the incense stick had only been burned down about that much. And I mean, those things burn down pretty quick.
Mhm.
And it was just a really strange and cool moment. But then it just started to come through more and more. The training helped me. I think the biggest thing, and now that I think about it, I remember hearing this from my guides, and I think I channeled in my Connecting with Spirit group, where they said in general, we listen too much with our ears and we need to listen more with our heart. So I really try to focus on doing that a lot more, and especially when listening to light language or channeling the light language. And what I find happens is when we listen with our heart, just like I did at the start of this, after I had a knowing of what it was. Like I said, for me, it was an activation. Other times it felt like a healing. And there are times when I'm not really sure what that was. But again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I know it's for something good, and that's all I need to know. That's all I need to know.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And Sheila, what's your experience?
I would say that just listening to this, and I think I always have my learning in the moment, and I'm having it right now. And I'm just having a really clear understanding that we have rejected so many things in our lives based on it not being okay.
Mhm.
So we have rejected, I'm sure, light language. I probably would have, if you gave me light language when I was 18, I would have said, yeah, I would have made fun of it. I would have, I would have thrown stones at you, whatever. Like I wouldn't have accepted it.
Yeah.
So we have built a society that really has really trained us as humans against our natural instinct, which is to love. And the reason that we are doing these YouTube videos is to really bring people back to the space and understanding and the wisdom of knowing, and back to their heart, what resonates in our heart, and creating a community so that we can feel safe in that. And it's not by mistake that you landed here listening to this, because there's something inside of you that says, you know what, I want to be free. I don't want to have to go to course after course after course after course for years and years and years to finally discover that it's okay to listen to light language. So there is an opportunity now in the moment. And I think that's what we're discovering, is that people are waking up to the idea that I don't have to go and read every single book. If you saw the books on my shelves that I've read, and I'm sure Tracy and Kim could attest to that, just trying to find the freedom to love. And the freedom to love is our birthright. You don't have to read 1,000 books to find it. It's the truth. So I find it so fascinating that each and every one of us, I'm sure there's not a single human on the planet that doesn't want to go back to their heart to live from love. You wouldn't ask anyone and say, yeah, I want to be more hateful. Not one single person would say that. Not even the most vile individuals on this planet would say that.
Mm-hmm.
We all want to love more.
Yeah.
And this light language is a beautiful, loving tool to do that. And so why does it have to be different? Why does it have to be something that freaks us out? Because it would have done that to me at some point in my life, for sure.
Yeah.
I would have looked at you two like you're crazy.
Yep.
Nothing wrong with a little crazy.
Nope.
But I wouldn't want to be different.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have wanted to be different. I wouldn't have wanted to say, oh, that's cool. Or, I'm saying for most of my life, I've really tried to embrace the spirituality, but there was a time when I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Such a fear of being different. So that's just my perspective. I think it's really powerful what you two bring forward with this light language. It's a tool and experience to bring us right to exactly where we want to be.
Yeah. And, I find that super fascinating from the perspective of like, it's almost like we were conditioned. Like I'm looking at my daughter, right. And she's a teenager, she's 13. And so everything right now is about fitting in, right? Fitting in, looking a certain way and fitting in and saying the right things and doing the right things and being at the right places. Right. And it's almost like, sometimes I wonder if it's actually, is it a humanity thing or is it a rite of passage that we get conditioned right, into fitting in and all, just kind of blending in, so that then we can uncondition ourselves to be the complete opposite in a lot of ways, right? Which is super fascinating to me.
It's interesting you say that, because I had a session with Sheila last week, actually. And one of the things the guide said is, I need to not walk the line, like to stay on the path of the norm. Right. And I know that because I'm always being directed off onto another path. And sometimes there is that resistance because of the thoughts or the fears of, what are people going to think? Or I'm going to be viewed as crazy. Right. And that was even the experience yesterday. I had a lot of resistance in our training to share the light language. And I forced myself to move past that discomfort yesterday. And even when I shared it at the end, it did feel, I still had some resistance that I shared it. I'll be honest. It felt, how are they going to perceive this? Right. But the feedback was good. They loved it. So sometimes we need to push ourselves into the discomfort so that we can realize that, you know what, there is some comfort here. It is okay.
Yeah.
And the more we do that, the more comfortable we become.
Absolutely. And one of the other things that I'd love to hear both your views on, and for me, this is a topic that's more, to me, I feel like it's a myth that I want to like dismantle, and you might have a different view, which obviously is very, very okay. But earlier on in my spiritual journey, I had this kind of belief, I guess, if you will, and I feel like it came from a few different lineages and their viewpoints, that things like light language or channeling or any of these, intuitive gifts, let's say, that we can access, come to us when we reach a certain level. And yes, it is an up level or an upgrade in a way, but that is different from the belief that we have to earn it. Does that make sense when I say it like that? And for me, I feel like it's important to, and this is how I work with people, is to dismantle that belief that you have to earn it or you have to prove yourself, right? Or there has to be some kind of like sacrifice in order to reach that level. I wholeheartedly believe that it's accessible to all of us. It's not, I'm not a fucking special unicorn here just because I can share light language. I'm no different than anybody else. Right. And that's how I see it. But I know there is a lot of conversation around, with, especially now, right? We talk about ascension and we talk about upgrades and we talk about all of these things, and everyone's on their own path and at their own pace, right? Our journey is unique to us. But I find it super interesting how we can get stuck in those specific kind of more rigid, I guess, viewpoints. And it could be more religious, like it could be a Catholic thing or it could be a Christian thing, but it can also be like a metaphysical, spiritual thing, whether it's, a viewpoint of Reiki or a viewpoint, whatever that is, right? So I'd love to hear your perspectives on what that looks like too, Kim.
Yeah. So first of all, we are all magical unicorns. Let's not deny that. The two things that come to mind, yes, this is available to everybody, and all you need to do is believe and trust.
Mm-hmm.
I really firmly believe that, right? And that's what opens the door.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, being in that vibration of love, of presence, of joy, gratitude, that high vibration is so important, but you can be there and still not believe or not trust, and I don't know that it's going to happen. So for me, believe and trust are such a big part of it. And if I can offer maybe a simplified or more relatable explanation. I mean, on this planet, there are many, many different languages. Mm-hmm. We don't know them all. But if we are connected to our emotional body, I can hear someone speaking German or Russian or Ukrainian or French or any language I don't know. And if I'm listening and feeling into it, I can tell if this is a conversation of joy, of sadness, of anger, right? It's no different. If you listen to light language with your emotional body, with your heart, you're going to understand it better from there than here. And that's something we hear even in our English language in different therapies or healing modalities. It's get out of your head, get into your heart, right? So That's just my take on it.
Yeah, I love that. That actually reminds me of a really tangible example. When I was in Greece, I think it was 2018, a girlfriend of mine, we were putting on a retreat. And so we'd gotten there the first couple of days before everyone was coming. And we were at the hotel in Athens, and we were taking the elevator to go all the way up to the roof where there was this amazing like patio bar, and you could see like the Acropolis and everything. Like, the view is phenomenal. But there was this huge like business event going on there, and there was tons of Europeans. And so it was like, there was just all kinds of people there, and it was super busy. And we ended up in this elevator with, I think there was 4 men, maybe 3 men, but they weren't speaking English. They were speaking, I want to say it was Russian, but I could be wrong. I've never been really good at picking up on dialects, but I feel like my friend mentioned it. But anyways, so they were having a conversation in the elevator, and I don't speak a single word of that, but we could tell from the energy that they were actually commenting about us. So we knew that they were speaking about us, kind of more in like a, male speak about female, derogatory kind of like, I want to sex you up kind of way. But we didn't understand a single word, but it was like we knew exactly what they were saying just from the energy of it. So I love that example. That's amazing. I like that. Sheila, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts are that the light language for me is something that I appreciate. And anytime I get a chance to listen to it, I'm open. And I understand that this might not work for everyone. So it might not be something you're like, I don't get it. I don't want to do it. It's not my thing. And I think in trying to dismiss or trying to dismantle hierarchy, I think it's really imperative that we suggest to you that this might not be for you. Mm-hmm. This might not be your thing. And it might not resonate with you, and it might be something that you don't want to even touch on again. And that's okay, because there is nothing that makes you better or less than if you listen to language, this light language. You have your path, and the way you walk your path is absolutely perfect. And the way I walk my path is perfect. And I think that's where we're coming to, in a place of being safe and being able to trust. Mm-hmm. That I can be different. I can be different and listen to light language, but you can be different and, pray in a different way, or, you find your way in a different fashion. So light language is just a reminder that it is perfect and beautiful, but it just might not be for you.
Yeah. I love that. And I would also say, like, explore many, because full transparency, I hear some, and like I said before, they bring me to tears, but then I've heard others and it's like nails on a chalkboard for me. And I'm like, nope, that's not for me. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a rightness or a wrongness. I just know that it's not a vibrational match for me at that time. And I might come back to that person, we could say, in a couple of months and be like, oh, now I'm ready to receive that. Right. So I would say explore, and, whether you go, there's tons of stuff on TikTok, there's tons of stuff on YouTube. It's all over the place. It'll be the biggest rabbit hole that you ever find once you start just typing in light language. Right.
Yeah, I agree. There's such an importance to explore, but again, and if it doesn't resonate, then that's okay, right? There's nothing wrong with you. But yeah, it's like, sometimes we go to our first yoga class and you just don't resonate with the teacher or the type of class, right? And if you make your judgment based on that first experience, you might be missing out on some stuff.
Totally.
So check out some different things and find what resonates. And if nothing does, like Sheila said, that's okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean there's anything wrong.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Because I think that's where we've got ourselves caught up in the past, where we've like, oh, that teacher can do that, and I can't do that. I want to be like that teacher, and they must be more evolved than me. And we've got ourselves caught in a place of being less than too often. And you're not less than if light language is not your deal, right? You're not less than if the way that we practice spirituality is not your deal. We are all humans on our own journey, doing it in our own way. And we've really developed a society of judgment. We've created wars out of, religions. We've created all kinds of, we can speak to the big debate of 2020. We've created a lot of difficulties in our relationships based on not accepting and knowing that what they believe is not necessarily what you believe, but it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I can add one more thing, the trauma recovery coach in me is coming out. For anybody who is trying to find different languages and really getting a lot of resistance, it might also be an opportunity to ask, why am I in resistance of this? Is there something in me? Like, it could be activating that. As we know, triggers are a way for the body to show you what needs to be healed or released or let go. So there could be an opportunity for some healing in that resistance too. Maybe not necessarily always, but it might just be something to explore. Hey, why am I resisting this? And feel into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a lot of clients that have done a lot of past life work around exactly that, right? And it could be resistance to light language, but it could also be resistance to, their own intuitive gifts, or to even like resistance to trust and to faith of self, right? Or, like resistance in a lot of ways to spirituality, right? Where it's like, well, where does this come from? And sometimes it's not always, but sometimes it's not even of this life. Right? It's old energy we've been carrying for lifetimes that once we can recognize that, we can realize that we can release it because we no longer need it.
It could be as simple as, a light language that is maybe meant to open the heart or to connect here. And if a person is holding a lot of grief, and especially because we're in a society where we're taught avoid, distract, suppress. To have that come in and open up, it brings all that up. So of course it's going to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it might not be resistance though. It might just be, it's not my thing. Totally. You know what I mean? Like that word resistance suggests that there's something that we're doing wrong. Yeah. That resistance is, if light language is not your thing, you're not doing something wrong. Yeah. And you might not be you could be resisting, and you'll know that in your body and you'll feel that differently. But it might be like, I'm in the yoga community and they have what they call kirtan. And it's a beautiful, loving, joyous celebration of love. And I go sometimes, but sometimes I'm not feeling it. Sometimes it's not my thing. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'm resisting it. It's just, it's not for me that day or that time or in that space. It's just not what resonates with me always. So I really want us to really allow people to find their way, and not that they're wrong in their way.
Mm-hmm. I think it comes back to that bigger trust in self, Sheila, like you were saying, right? Okay, take the time. What is this resistance? Is it because there's something there, or is it just because it's just not in alignment with my truth? Yeah. The answer is always right there. Just take the time to check in, find your truth, and move forward.
Yeah. And that's where discernment comes in, right? That's where we trust self rather than other people, right? And we start to ask those questions and we start to dig a little bit deeper, and we keep asking questions until we get down to the root of what that really is for us. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm about to put you on the spot, Kim, but before I do that, are there any final things that you just feel called to share, or that you want to say or bring forward into the field?
No, I just want to again encourage our viewers to, share their thoughts in the comments here on the YouTube channel, whether it's they're watching live or watching the recording. Of course, we have our Facebook page, The Spiritual View, there, where we can carry on these conversations. It's great to hear feedback. And if there's questions, reach out to us, reach out to Tracy. She'll filter them through us. So yeah, that's all I wanted to add.
Beautiful. Sheila.
I just appreciate both of you for being available to what is in your hearts and being able to express it. Because a lot of my life, I wasn't able to. So when I see that in others, I feel a great amount of joy, a great amount of gratitude, because I always believe the more wise we become, the more wise the earth becomes. So it starts with every one of us. A world full of wise people is a very wise earthly experience for sure.
Oh, I love that. You should write a little children's book with that, Sheila. Like that. Okay. All right, Kim. So are you ready to share a little bit with us?
Yeah. And so I'm going to be honest, this is the second time I'm actually doing this with anybody other than myself. So I'm putting myself out there. I'm just moving through my discomfort, and I can tell you, I do feel it physically, but that's okay, because this is how we grow and this is how we walk our path and not the common path.
Yes.
So I'm not going to say this is going to be any specific. It's just going to come through. And if there's anything that I sense at the end, I will share that. but I will invite those with me live or on the recording to close your eyes. And if that's not comfortable, you can just take your gaze downwards. And then take a few cleansing breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Allow whatever you're sitting upon to take your weight. Set the intention to slow your breath and know that just by setting that intention, you will start to breathe more slowly. And that will send a message to the body to relax even more. And then I want you to imagine that you have volume dials on your ears. And I want you to imagine, or even physically, bring your hands up and turn back these imaginary dials on your ears, turning the volume down and even click until the volume is off, ears muted, so that you can't hear anything with your ears moving forward until we turn that volume back up. And now I want you to bring your awareness to your heart center, to that place of love, connection to your soul, to your essence, to truth. And imagine a volume button for your heart. And turn that volume button all the way up. And now set the intention to connect to the emotional body and the energetic body. You might even feel this deeper connection to your heart. You might actually even feel your heart beating. And if you connect deeper with intention, you may even feel that slight vibration of your cells. And if you don't, that is okay. Just know that you are now fully listening, feeling with your heart, your emotional body, and your energy body. Everything that you hear going forward will come in through your heart. You'll absorb it for the highest and greatest good for yourself. Be open to receive with love and gratitude. Asikotana nama, ashukotana I ukatu sakanamanata. Ishukatata, ona sikotama a ushakata. Usikatanama ano ishukatama a usha oka. Tona sikotama. Asi u shukatana asu ikuta ona si okatasha. Ishkatanama o ashukata isona o ashukata. Aseo ona sikuta, ashitu ona sakapa, ona si, ashkatuna mapo, asituno osika. Take a deep breath. Exhale. Hold your attention on your heart center, allowing that transmission to integrate. Bring your awareness back to your physical body. When you're ready, you can open your eyes, come back to the space.
Thank you, Cam. That was so beautiful.
And I'll invite the two of you to share, just as we did in the beginning, maybe what came up for you.
It was interesting because before you even started taking us through the breath, right away my body started to release. So I actually muted myself because I was yawning. So there was a lot of release there. And and another experience of hearing that language and it feeling extremely familiar. And what I notice is when I hear other people's light language that feels extremely familiar, it triggers me to want to respond, which is also why I'm muted, because I want to talk with you rather than at you. So thank God I muted, because then it came out and I was like, oh, and then I was like, okay, I was muted. But yeah, it was so beautiful. And at the end, I felt at the beginning, I had a bit of a pressure in the heart. And by the end, it was like, it just went, and it was like, it just dissipated.
Thanks.
It was so beautiful. Yeah.
Maybe we'll have a conversation on here one day in light language.
Yeah. Sheila, how was your experience?
My experience was of healing. It definitely is a healing language for me. And it's almost like the message almost wanted to come forward this time, where, I guess I'm more eased into it, I guess is what I would say. It was like, it was on the tip of my tongue what the message was. Yeah.
Cool. So you can be our translator.
Maybe, yeah, because it did almost come forward. Like I knew what you were saying. So not quite enough for me to be conscious of it, but it was just right there.
I wonder if you could write it, or our friend Karen, maybe. I wonder if she could write it. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
We can start another show.
Follow up.
Where it's like light language speakers and translators, and we can just share messages.
I love it. And you know what, if I can just add one more thing too, because we didn't really talk about it, and I'm just reminded, and this is something that I learned in the training I did, and I didn't know this until then, that verbally speaking isn't the only way to communicate light language. It can be through dance, it can be through art, it can be through music or different things. And when I learned that, it makes a lot of sense. So honestly, there's times when I think all of us are speaking light language, just maybe not verbally.
Yeah, it can be written as well.
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, awesome. Any final words before we wrap up episode 3?
I just say, check it out, explore, like you said, and see where it takes you. You never know.
Beautiful. Sheila?
Yeah, I hope this podcast, or not pod, I keep calling it a podcast, this YouTube session gives you permission to be more free.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. And I, of the very same vein, I would say, just have fun with it, right? Is just have fun and just play with no expectations, or preconceived notions or points of view attached to it. And if that's something that calls to you, then, and you want to explore it yourself, I would say that one of the biggest keys for me anyways was the aspect of divine surrender, right? And allowing rather than having that resistance, right? And if it's not for you, that's cool too. But we really wanted to come on here and just share this with all of you, because I know it's kind of a buzz thing now. It never used to be, but it kind of is. Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for joining us. Whether you're here live or you're catching it on the replay, please feel free to leave comments here and subscribe to our YouTube channel, or also come and check us out on our Facebook page and feel free to interact and continue the conversation over there, because any view is always welcome on the Spiritual View. All right. Beautiful. All right. Have a fabulous day. We'll see you next week.